they shifted the academic services piece into my area. I was also over extended ed for several years, at least the administrative, mechanics of it. And so it just sort of became a de facto vice presidential level. I was associate provost for a while, and most of these functions were under me then, and then it became a vice presidential position just because of the scope, I guess, the size and scope of it, and the way it interfaces. Really, since they moved extended ed, or now what we call unrestricted ed, off because it just became too large and became another vice president. My interfacing has become less difficult. So I really probably interface most with the president and the EVP because I'm working on in IT and registrar and advising. I'm working on sort of big picture student success pieces within those departments, and also with efficiencies relative to technology, software, and moving information around campus. So those are the areas that everybody's interested in doing better and doing faster, and my department, I guess through IT and some other areas, is trying to lead in those areas. I think some others are wanting to lead as well, but we're trying to lead the way relative to just getting students in, having them have a good experience relative to just their interfacing with academic support, and relative to their interfacing with technology, and just getting into the classes they need, getting advising, getting tutoring, all those areas.
So you oversee things like advising,
registrar, tutoring, testing.
Yeah. Do you oversee? So with like IT, is that something that you oversee?
I'm in that too. Yeah.
Okay. So IT. So some of what about like HR? Is that EVP or is that? Or
that's the EVP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because some of these, like the IT, would be something that would typically be under like a CFO or something like that. But but those are kind of
they moved it under me a few years ago. Okay. Yeah, it's a pretty unusual mix.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit? You mentioned that the leadership team kind of moved from 5 to 9. Recent, I guess, in the past
within the last year
or so.
Yeah.
Can you tell a little bit about what that change kind of looked like in terms of and maybe how that's impacted team dynamics?
We had an EVP who was also the CFO and the vice president of advancement, and so he had 3 hats. So when he left rather suddenly about a year and a half ago, we were like, okay, what are we going to do? Everybody agreed we have to have a standalone CFO. We don't want 3 hats or whatever. We want a CFO. And so we brought Jeff in. We had an EVP. Chris changed over to EVP, and then we replaced him on the student development. We replaced that position with Bethany, so that was another position there. And then we also, somewhere along in there before that, but it wouldn't be 1 year, it'd be more like 2 years, we brought on Justin Lathrop as Vice President of Strategic Partnerships, which was a new position. And then we added Nick Walstead. We added that, like it was carved out. It was carved out from me and Roy Rowland, because Roy was over the sort of recruiting of unrestricted within the umbrella of, admission. And I was over the mechanics of unrestricted relative to, everything else. And that was a lot. I mean, the mechanics was, training the site personnel, hiring professors to teach, making sure the students could get, their schedules. I mean, that was it was more than just registrar and advising. It was also sort of setting up the site relative to the mechanics of running a site. I mean, Roy was recruiting the students, but and the site was doing a lot of recruiting too. But anyway, so within that, you're talking about 3 or 4 new slots that opened up because of all those changes. And I think we're still, to me, I wouldn't say we. I'm still getting used to it. Mm-hmm. Because we used to have 5 or 6. 5, I think. It seems like it was 5 at one point. Mm-hmm. And now it's 9. So yesterday was a pretty smooth meeting and pretty quick because I actually got time to report. Mm-hmm. And not that I need time, it's just that it feels a little too big to me right now. But yesterday, if all our meetings were like yesterday, I think it would be manageable. But sometimes it's just, the CFO has a 45-minute presentation, and the vice president of EVP has a 40-minute presentation or something, and the admissions has a lot of stuff to report, and by the time it gets to me, it's like, I'll just wait till next week. Mm-hmm. So it's just different, really. Mm-hmm. It's just different with so many people. Mm-hmm. So I think I'm still getting used to the new group.
I mean that kind of relates to another question of mine, which is, how is the meeting that, and you might have just already answered this, but how is the meeting that I observed either different from or similar to kind of the typical meeting at this point?
I'd say it's pretty typical. I think that, there may have been some frayed nerves that got tamped down a little bit with you there. I'm not sure. It looked like it was going to flare for a minute or two there. And maybe what in the world was that when my phone fell out? So, obviously that changes the dynamic a little bit, but it was pretty, I'd say it was fairly typical of a normal meeting. It probably moved a little bit smoother and quicker, it felt a little more formal, a little bit more formal, not terribly formal, but a little more formal, probably because you were there. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I'll just start sitting in on every meeting to kind of make sure it moves along.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Well, maybe I'll go here. In what ways is success in your role dependent upon the rest of the leadership team?
I guess my answer doesn't sound very Christian.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that dependent.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm pretty much make or break. I mean, of course, obviously, I have to have support for resources. If I don't have that, then I can't be successful. If I don't get the resources for personnel, software, what we need, I can't be successful. That's significant. And then we have to try to collaborate, with other departments, which is it's tough sometimes because I think that we just have different goals. I mean, we all have the same mission. We're all going the same place. But the recruiting guy is going to say, we want to bring in more students. And I'm going to say, well, yes, but we want to bring in students that are going to fit in and not be a drain on our academic support systems. And, and the business guy is going to say, for example, we need to hire, we need to have larger class sizes, or we need to have, hire professors that don't cost as much to hire, or whatever they're going to say. And I'm probably going to say something like, well, there's a limit to that on the continuum. There's a business objective and there's an academic objective.
Yeah.
And usually they're on two ends of the continuum. And I'm always going to be pulling for the academic. I understand the business objective because of my seat at the table. but I'm always going to be